Seattle!
From the ashes, we rose up, the fan base that started a revolution, and the station that led the charge.
Getting reports from within the athletic department that the deal is off. Pretty connected guy saying the deal is off. That was a direct quote.
When the time came, you were ready.
We are starting a revolution that says we're not going to take this shit from you anymore.
For the fans that refuse to settle.
We have successfully shut this down today.
This is Fox Sports Knoxville.
We are the caretakers now.
Fan Run Radio.
It's the chase. It's the chase. Live 1 to 3 Monday through Friday on Fan Run Radio, Fox Sports Knoxville. Listen to Chase and his friends on WKGN. It's the chase. It's the Scruffy City. Listen to his friends, and his friends are on WKGN. I'm always taking your calls on the Tennessee Vols. It's the chase. It's the chase. It's the chase.
It's the Chase here on a Friday. My name is Chase Thomas, coming to you live from the White Claw Hard Seltzer Studios right here in beautiful East Tennessee. You made it to Friday, week number 4. It's already been a month, Producer Garrett and Producer Jay. No Jack Foster of Rocky Top Insider and Omaha Productions today. He'll be back next week, but we still got a jam-packed show for you guys today as we wrap up month number 1 right here on Fan Run Sports Radio, Fox Sports Knoxville, 105.7 FM, 1340 AM are ways you can listen. You can also listen on that free Fan Run Radio app. Go ahead and download that today if you have not already done so. You can also watch us where we're streaming all day long on the YouTube channel on Fan Run Fox Sports Knoxville, so make sure you're subscribed and locked in there if you prefer to watch this very show 1 to 3 Monday through Friday with a whole heck of a lot of awesome Tennessee sports media figures. I mean, this week we had Ryan Schemper of Rocky Top Insider back. We had Ethan Stone, as always, of Saturday Down South on Thursdays. We have Ryan Sylvia of Fall Report on Wednesdays, Caleb Giroux of the Daily Times on Mondays, and then Jack Foster of Omaha Productions and Rocky Top Insider on Fridays as well. So jam-packed show for you guys today, and I hope you enjoy our format after a month here. So appreciate you guys making the Chase part of your daily listen wherever and however you are listening all across East Tennessee. We kick things off with Tennessee really active all across the board. Tennessee baseball active, Tennessee basketball, multiple guys drafted, Tennessee Vols getting recruiting news here. It's kind of a lot of information in a hurry here over the last 24 hours for Vol Nation. So we'll dive into all of that here at the top of hour number 1. We'll talk to Rashad Milligan, my old friend of NOLA.com, to talk about that big-time Atlanta Hawks and New Orleans Pelicans trade and where the Hawks stand going into the Eastern Conference in 2025-2026. So we'll talk to Rashad there. We'll also talk to William Pattison of Overtime and the VIP The Slate right here on Fan Run Radio, Fox Sports Knoxville, to get his insight into what happened with the Memphis Grizzlies, the hometown team here, and Cedric Coward and everything else they did this week in the NBA draft with Jemai Mashek also entering the fold for the Grizz. In hour number 2, we'll talk to Connor O'Gara of Saturday Down South to pick his brain on the Vols and where he thinks things are headed for Tennessee in 2025, and some more SEC news and nuggets. We'll talk to G5 Garrett, Arkansas State today with old friend of Rocky Top, Butch Jones, and him leading the program there, the Red Wolves. So we'll talk to G5 Garrett there. We'll talk about Jordan Ross, year 2 for him on the edge, former 5-star out of Vestavia Hills, Alabama. And then we'll wrap with a Glen Elarbee conversation that I think would be really fun and interesting because I have something to say when it comes to Tennessee's offensive line coach. So jam-packed Friday edition right here on the Chase. We kick things off here. Tennessee yesterday, right as we were recording this very show, Blaine Brown, Rice, two-way player, jumps into the boat out of the transfer portal for Tennessee. Another versatile guy, a la DJ Newman from Bowling Green earlier in the week as well. Blaine Brown, a lot of raw power, 6'3", 200 pounds. Another potential big-time bat in Quentin Eberhardt's room and off-season work. So I'm excited to see how Blaine works out there. But it's another guy with just so much turnover all across the board. And we'll see what happens with the infield, because that's another big part of it is Cal's infielder, who we thought was going to be a LSU Tennessee battle to the end, ends up at Georgia Tech in a kind of a big stunner there. So Tennessee, we'll see where they go if they continue to look and find another infield option to compete, maybe with Ariel Antigua, who is still not near the transfer portal. So who knows what his status is going. Oh, go ahead.
You see what he said? You see what he did yesterday?
Who?
Antigua.
Oh, no.
6 hits in the Appalachian League in 1 game.
Are you buying some Ariel Antigua stock?
I don't know about that yet, but I thought that was pretty impressive.
I'll believe it when I see it during a Tennessee baseball game. But that's great to hear, though. That he's getting his bat going in the Appalachian League.
Is that kind of is he on the best case scenario is like the Jemai Meshack route, where Jemai, best defender in college basketball last year, Ariel Antigua has the talent to be the best defensive infielder in college baseball over the course of a full year. I don't know. I know Jack, who is not here today, is a gigantic Ariel Antigua guy. I think the upside is there. Obviously, he's super talented defensively, but it's the bat. Like, so much of it is just, if he even got to average at the plate, or even slightly below average.
If he could draw walks,
yes,
that would be better.
That's the problem where I don't see I like him. Like, I don't have anything against him. Like, I think he's a good guy. Like, I hope he succeeds. Like, I'm not, like, against him or anything. I just don't think you can make professional baseball if you can't hit. Like, you see what impressive fielders do. Like, if you play professional baseball and you can hit, they'll find a spot for you in the lineup.
Yeah.
Like, if you can't hit, like, they're not. I mean, that's the same thing that happened to Pavloni. Like, he was a great catcher, couldn't hit, and now he didn't play professional baseball anymore. Like, nothing against him. It's just like he got put in a tough place with the Orioles farm system, and like he was a great, defensive catcher, and his hitting wasn't there.
Happened with Cal Stark too. He found his bat once we got to the tournament, but like before that, he was pretty much just an all-glove catcher.
I wouldn't say he found his bat in the postseason.
He had a few home runs, though.
He did have some clutch hits.
Yeah.
But I would not say that's very generous. But the Cal Stark experience, because he was an elite catcher, was a little bit different also. I mean, there's more responsibility, with just the starters.
Catcher's the one position where, like, if you are an elite, like, back picks and really working well with your pitcher, like, you can kind of get away with not hitting
Austin
as well.
Hedges. Jeff Mathis, another
but
guy.
if you're an infielder or an outfielder and you can't hit, like, there's going to be better options.
100%. And I think that's the big thing too with Antigua. Is just, I think a lot of people are like, well, Jorel Ortega made a big leap in the infield, and that was kind of a surprise in his last year on Rocky Top. I mean, he's probably. I talked to the Tennessee Vol Sports guys about this, and I just kind of think he's kind of that overlooked, undervalued player, especially from that 2022 team where he raked. Jorel Ortega burst onto the scene and was just a big-time clutch player for Tennessee in 22. And obviously it's loaded, potentially 9 MLBers on that team alone. But, yeah, I think he's kind of one of the forgotten guys from that group. And who knows, maybe Ariel Antigua does make that leap. Like G5 Garrett locked in on the Appy League, and we'll see what happens there. I know Jackson Walker hit a home run early, but I think his batting average last I checked was pretty rough in the Appy League. So as him being a wild card maybe in the outfield, another one. We'll see on that front. But I do kind of wonder where Tennessee goes now, because with the Cal kid not ending up here, it opens the door for Ariel Antigua to be a starter. Again, he is not in the portal. So, I mean, we'll see if he competes and he's around going into next year. And that's good competition. It's one of those where if Ariel wants to come back and compete with whoever Tennessee brings in or doesn't bring in, that's also good. I will never turn down more competition, the iron sharpens iron type deal. And because he's super talented, and Tennessee at the time was lucky to get him on campus 2 years ago. So who knows what another offseason in Tony Vitello, Quinn Eberhardt, Josh Elander's system does for him. Like, we don't know. It's a big intrigue, I guess, but we'll see on the Ariel Antigua front. But I mean, the commits are also coming in at a rapid rate here. So as we just got started here, Edward Baker, interior guard from St. Francis Academy in Baltimore, where Tennessee, I think, already has 2 players on this roster. Dominic Bailey from years ago, he's a St. Francis guy. And then you also have Idris Farouk, who might be your starter next to Andre Turrentine, is a St. Francis product as well. So a great athletic school, basketball school, football school over there in Baltimore, paying dividends for the Vols. They're doing a great job recruiting the DMV in the Baltimore area because Edward Baker, 3-star interior guy, 6'4", 315. He chose the Vols over Ole Miss and Arkansas today. So I am kind of curious what that means for Brandon Anderson, 4-star interior offensive lineman from North Cobb High School back in Marietta, Georgia. He was down to Tennessee, Mizzou, and I forgot the other school, maybe UNC, I want to say off the top of my head. So we'll see what happens with his recruitment now that Edward Baker is in the boat. But he is now in the boat. Darius Gray, another 5-star interior guard that Tennessee is chasing. We'll see what that looks like, as that seems to be a Tennessee, LSU, South Carolina battle. JP Shabazz, another guy to look out for. Kamari Blair. You have Brody Smith, local product from Maryville. He is also in the mix at one of the tackle spots. So Tennessee, a lot of tackles, a lot of guards still on the board for them. And I am kind of curious how they keep stacking these bodies. Because right now, coming into today, it was only 9 recruits in the boat. And you have schools like USC who have 30. And over the next month, I think you're going to see a lot of guys. I mean, today alone, maybe we get even more on the show where Kedrick Golston II, who is a Georgia legacy, and his father played for Rodney Garner at Georgia many years ago. He's an edge guy, 4-star guy. He commits to Tennessee today. So Tennessee on a recruiting roll right now on the football front. And then basketball front, Chaz Lanier goes to the Detroit Pistons, and what I think is a great landing spot for him on a Pistons team that should be one of the 6 best teams in the Eastern Conference next year. Good fit next to Cade Cunningham and company. I like that fit for him. Zakai Ziegler, who knows? Does he make the team this summer? And he's a Piston, G League guy. Who knows?
Detroit Vols.
There you go. The Detroit Vols. Tobias Harris. Obviously they're a VFL. And then you have Jemai Mashak in a big-time deal. He winds up at Memphis as the last pick in the NBA draft. And now Tennessee, one of 7 college basketball programs with at least 2 players drafted this week. So Tennessee and Rick Barnes, it's a great recruiting tool and a great win for Barnes and his staff. I remember I talked to an NBA draft scout last month, and he talked about Jemai Mashak and how well he did in team interviews, and just guys like him, and he lights up the room, and he's just a great guy in interviews, and obviously one of the best, if not the best, defensive prospect in the draft. And we all saw him up close in person here at Tennessee over his 4 years here. But I do think it's super interesting to see ultimately what happens here, but I also think it's a testament to just, hey, man, I think those kind of guys have a better chance of sticking in the NBA because he is elite at one particular skill. And if you're going to be a role player in the NBA, you've got to be really, really good at one particular thing, whether it's shooting, whether it's passing, whether it's defense, who knows what it is. It's just you've got to have something, or your chance of sticking is very, very thin because you have the stars are the ones who do a little bit of everything, who can do a lot of different stuff. You've got to have a niche if you're going to have a long-term future in the NBA. And Mashak will have to shoot. He will have to cut at a high rate. He will have to draw fouls and do other things other than just stand in the corner and be able to stay on the floor in important playoff games for the Memphis Grizzlies. But I do think he has a great opportunity. It's a great spot. Memphis has done a great job of drafting VFLs over the years as well. So another flyer on Jemai, but I'm very curious to see what his long-term outlook is in the NBA because a little bit different than Kennedy Chandler, a little bit different than some other fringe NBA guys at Tennessee. I mean, Keon Johnson he didn't have the season at Tennessee that he would have probably liked to have 3-4 years ago now, but he stuck around. Julian Phillips is stuck around in the league. You have Jaden Springer, who's still sticking around in the league. So a lot of Vols in the league, and obviously with Dalton Connect, who we'll talk about here. But, man, it's been a great 24 hours all across the board. Tennessee baseball, we'll see. We're still on Landon Mack watch out of Rutgers, and Tennessee can beat out LSU potentially for him to become a weekend starter for Tennessee next year. Man, it's Cape Cod League. You talked about the Appy League. So many Vols commits and current players playing in the Cape Cod League. So a lot of action there. Levi Clark's doing great by all accounts up in the Northeast. And, man, I just look at how much I'm outlining here. And it's just kind of overload. We've been starving for Tennessee news all week long, and we're in the sports doldrum time of year with just nothing on until we get to fall camp here next month. And college football will be here before you know it. High school football will be here before you know it. But, man, it was nice to have so much Tennessee stuff and so much positive Tennessee stuff break. And like I said, just at the top of the show, Edward Baker in the boat from St. Francis Academy. So I think Tennessee, for all the Tennessee fans who are like, man, when are the recruits coming? We're seeing a lot of other schools start getting guys in the boat. When is it our turn? And I think you're going to see a whole heck of a lot of balls start falling for the good guys in orange and white here over the next several weeks and even today here on a Friday. So a jam-packed show. When we come back, we'll talk to Rashad Milligan of NOLA.com to talk about that wild New Orleans Pelicans Atlanta Hawks trade, and 2 Atlanta locals. We'll talk about the Atlanta Hawks as well and where they sit going into 2026 and 2025 in the NBA season. So stick with us. It's Fan Run Sports Radio, Fox Sports Knoxville, 105.7 FM, 1340 AM, always streaming for free on that Fan Run Radio app. More The Chase right after this.
Your everything station.
It's the Chase right here on Fan Run Radio, Fox Sports Knoxville, 105.7 FM, 1340 AM, always streaming on that Fan Run Radio app. Old friend, NOLA.com's own Rashad Milligan, fellow Atlanta sports guy, on the line right now. Rashad, how are you doing, my friend?
Man, Chase, what's up, man? First things first, I wanted to say congratulations on the show and all the recent success, and hope the fans good as well, too.
Well, I appreciate that, my friend. We go way back as fellow Atlanta sports guys, and shout out to Malik Brown as well, doing a great job over there with Peachtree Hoops and Clutch Points and everywhere else. And yeah, man, you're the one who's the world traveler. Like every new post from Rashad is just a new celebrity he's taking pictures with or interviewing. He's being very humble, but Rashad's all over the place. I don't really know what Rashad does. It's just Rashad is just, he's all over the place.
I don't think anyone does, like, including my mom, so.
Well, we're on the same page there, my friend, because, hey, we're all doing our best, and you're great at what you do, and I appreciate you making part of your day here to join us right here on The Chase. So, Rashad, I have some thoughts, and now that you've had a couple days to think about the trade, you've had 48 hours roughly.
Yes.
Do you feel better about the Joe Dumars, Troy Weaver trade of giving the Atlanta Hawks an unprotected first-round pick potentially in 2026? Might be the Bucks if things implode there. The Hawks get the better of both. But what was your reaction at the time that got out, and how conflicted were you working for NOLA.com and also seeing what could be another number one overall pick for the Atlanta Hawks in 2026?
Yeah, no, it was funny because the joke I made when I first got the job at NOLA.com and, you know, the Tom Siki and everything like that was like, I, too, have been traded for Dyson Daniels, Larry Nance Jr., Lakers first-round pick. And so for the trade to continue between Atlanta and New Orleans, that was the first thing that was funny to me. I was like, oh, this is crazy, like the connection continues. My second thought was on the Hawks side was, okay, all right, so I guess they really believe that Asa Noel's still going to be there at 23. That was literally my first thought. Because, you know, the thought was the report came out from NBADraft.net earlier in the day that they promised that they were going to take him and stuff like that. So I was like, oh, they must really think this guy is still going to be there at 23, plus you get another first-round pick. And they kind of just made up for the entire DeJounte Murray trade because, you know, obviously last year from the initial trade with Dyson Daniels, they got back 2 first-rounders, and this was the third and final one. On the Pelican side, I was thinking – I think the nation, like America, is overreacting because I really think the Pelicans have a good chance of being good again next year. 2 years ago, they won 49 games. They won at least 42 games in 2 of the last 3 seasons. They have the same makeup, the same type of talent on the roster right now. Last year, it was something I've never seen before. All the guys 1 through 10 got hurt. I've never seen that before in the NBA. And, you know, the Mavericks, of course, had it worse. But it was just something – it was weird, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's my first year down there. You know, everybody always talks about the voodoo. And then Dyson Daniels comes over, and he just comes out and straight up says, oh, yeah, I think they're cursed. There's something in the water over there in the middle of the season. And I'm like, oh, man, maybe it is a curse when Trey Murphy goes out in the last couple months with the shoulder injury and things like that. So – if you don't have another catastrophic, historic, injury-plagued season, those guys are probably going to win another 40, 42 games, at least be in the range for the 10th seed in the play-in. And with that, the lottery pick is still a lottery pick. But you're looking at something more similar to the 13th or 14th pick as opposed to this number 1 or top 3 pick that everyone's assuming that the Pelicans are going to have next season.
Hey, Rashad, this is Jay. Do you think Derek Queen will be a day 1 impact on the Pelicans?
Say it again.
Do you think Derek Queen will be a day 1 impact on the Pelicans?
Oh, no. Zion's special, man. And I think he's going to be healthy at the start of the season. So as every time Zion plays, he's one of the, I say, at least top 15, but arguably top 10 in the league. And so, you know, as long as he's healthy, which I think he'll be at the beginning of the season for at least the first 2 weeks, and then he'll probably have a month off. But, I think because as long as Zion's playing, Derek's his role's going to be a little limited. His minutes are going to be limited coming out the gate. Now, you talked to me about around February, March, that's around the time that Missy really came along for the Pels last season as a rookie. I think that's when you can start to see Derek Queen's development and his impact within the rotation and moving himself up and earning more minutes from Willie Green. But coming out the gates, I don't think he's going to play much at all.
I mean, it's who's your favorite just bad defender on this Pelicans roster right now, Rashad? Is it Jordan Poole?
Favorite.
Is it Jeremiah Fears? Is it Derek Queen? Is it Zion Williamson? Is it Missy? There's so many options outside of Herb Jones. Herb Jones is just fighting for his life every night this fall.
Yeah, it's just Herb. Did you name Trey Murphy in the bad defenders? I hope.
No, I didn't say his name. He's in the middle. Trey Murphy's in the middle.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Trey Murphy's great. Trey Murphy's great. Oh, you gotta add your boy. You gotta add your boy, Chase.
Who?
DeJounte.
Let's see how DeJounte comes back. And also, you and I watched a lot of DeJounte Murray Atlanta Hawks games. DeJounte Murray is theoretical good defender guy. Like he's one of those where it's just like he should be, but he's not.
Yeah, exactly. I wanted to say something more. And I was like, no, keep it respectful. I don't want the company. Rashad, watch what she's saying. But yeah. The DeJounte is, I would say, I think everyone can universally agree he's not the defender that he once was in San Antonio. And then after a couple of surgeries and a couple of major injuries now, I think that it's safe to assume that he won't get back to the defender that he once was. Offensively, he's always going to be a bucket. That will never change. But defensively, you'll never get great defender at the guard, at the attack point. DeJounte Murray, he might be another liability on defense. So I think my favorite bad defender on the Pelicans, to answer your question, probably Jordan Poole, man.
He actually had a decent season last year. He bounced back a little bit. What are we doing with Jeremiah Fears, DeJounte Murray, and Jordan Poole? Like it's just and Trey Murphy a little bit, but
So Joe Dumars, when he first got hired, he did his local media rounds, and he said, I want to bring a product that people in New Orleans the next day can say, oh man, you missed the Pelicans game, you missed an entertaining one, da 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 da. And we want to make sure we put on a show for the city and give this city something to talk about with the basketball team, regardless if we win or lose. And when he said that, I was like, oh, he's going for entertainment, man.
That's
it's
scary.
like, if we're going to be bad, Zion Williamson's going to give us a 360 windmill dunk. We're going to get between the leg heavies from Jeremiah Fears, sneak steals from Jose Alvarado. It's going to be a fun time, And I think that's kind of where he's going. He's like, if we're not going to be good immediately, at least we're going to be entertaining in our process of trying to get good again and keep Zion happy.
Did you like the Asa Newell pick for the Hawks with the trade back there?
I think it's a good value at 23.
Mm-hmm.
From everything I've heard, because I honestly, I'm going to be transparent with you. I didn't watch much UGA men's basketball. I knew who Asa was since high school, since he was at Mount Verde. Mm-hmm. Everybody kind of pays attention to them and stuff with Cooper Flagg. But I didn't really watch many of his full games last season. But from what everybody's telling me, he's kind of another run and jump demon, just alley-oop merchant and things of that sort, lob merchant. And, Trey loves a lob merchant. He loves a good athletic big that can roll and just go up there and get it and allow him to get an easy bucket if he wants to, or play with the defense with that. Is it a floater? Is it a pass? We don't know. Trey loves that. So I think it's a good fit, and it's insurance. The front court needed some insurance for KP and Jalen. No. That was insurance. I'm sorry. Let me redo that. Asa was insurance for Jalen because, Jalen's probably going to miss 20-plus games at some point of the season. And then now I think the Hawks could look for insurance for KP, but at the same time, it's like backup point guard is still screaming for water. So, yeah.
I get what you're saying. I don't know. I think John Collins is something he jumps out to me, a less polished version of John Collins. And that'd be fun. Like John Collins, you maximized the John Collins experience in Atlanta. Like that was a great development win for Atlanta, and he was a lot of fun. Like peak John Collins run with the Hawks was fun. I will say though, it is kind of interesting because like Jalen Johnson has had some freak injury, so I'm not ready to just be completely overwhelmed with his injury luck and whether or not he's gonna be someone you can count on. Because I don't know if you're the same way, Rashad, but this is the most excited I've been about a Hawks season coming up right now. In what, a decade? The East is wide open.
A decade. I feel like a stretch. I feel like the last time I was really excited was when they got Bogey. I was like, oh man, this could be something. And it turned out to be something.
I mean, I would say maybe the year after the Eastern Conference Finals, and obviously that did not go well. We were like, oh, we're close. We're close. You're feeling pretty good. They were not close, Rashad. You and I both know they were not close, and that ended in a hurry. But I'll never sell all my Cam Reddish stock. Like, that would hurt. The Cam Reddish experience not going well was tough. But I mean,
he's this is a heads up. He's trying to go to Brooklyn.
Okay, we'll see. I don't know. Cam Reddish is going to be in the league for like 16 years, and he's going to play for 22 teams, and it's just a bunch of teams trying to talk themselves into Cam Reddish because he came in super young, and he's long, good defender, theoretical three-point shooter. Like, everyone's just going to keep talking themselves into Cam Reddish for the extended amount of time, but we shall see. Are we sure, though, that the Hawks can't win the East next year? No Halliburton with the Pacers. The Magic, we'll see how Desmond Bane and company fit in. You look at the Celtics tearing it down next year. The Knicks, we'll see. They're super thin. They don't have a coach yet. You or I might be coaching the Knicks next year. We'll see where we are in the pecking order. But, man, I don't know. It's crazy that I'm talking myself into them this much, but I think, I mean, not even just the KP part of it, of just having him split time with Onyeka, and what we last saw of Onyeka against the Heat was phenomenal, and I hope we get some version of that more often than not next year. Risa Shea, another year older, he'll be better. I love Dyson Daniels in my life. Like, Dyson Daniels is just a perfect compliment to Trey. I don't know, I feel great. Like, outside of people being like, Kobe Buffkin, and I'm like, all right, let's comment. Like, if I get one more Kobe Buffkin, it's going to be tough, because it's just, all right, he's 29 now, it feels like, and we've been waiting on Kobe Buffkin for a while, and I'm not going to get all that amped up about a combo guard who's, like, best case scenario is, like, lefty, poor man's Jordan Poole, but I don't know. Am I crazy for drinking this much Hawks juice optimism?
No, especially with the $25 million trade exception that they have to use by July 7th.
Cam Johnson, let's go.
Cam Johnson, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, or wild card, Colin Sexton. If you get one of those guys with that $25 million, and I know it got quiet when I said Young Bull, but if you bring Young Bull home to come off the bench to back up Trey, I'm speaking like LeVar Ball now. But I feel like that is a Eastern Conference contender team. I think right now it's constructed. They already have a chance to make the Eastern Conference Finals again, but to make the finals, it depends on who they get with that trade exception. And you're not crazy. You're not crazy. Like, the Pacers literally went to the final before all of these injuries. When the Pacers went to the finals, every team in the East was like, "Oh, we can do it." That's why I think, Orlando trades 4 first-round picks for Desmond Bane, because they're like, "Oh yeah, we could do this. We're not that far away from Indiana." Every team in the East said that, so it's wide open. If I'm a big-time free agent, I'm signing at least a 1-year rental to go play on the East to give myself a chance to win the championship.
I love it. Well, we'll see how it all plays out for, Joe Dumars and Troy Weaver. Hey, like you said, they're being aggressive. They're taking a chance. My biggest issue is, like, you're not in the East. Like, this would have a little bit more of a possibility to me of working out if you're playing in the East. You're not. You're playing in the West, where you can't make the playoffs. Like, there's no path to the New Orleans Pelicans making the playoffs next year. Joe Dumars, you're not in the East anymore. Troy Weaver, you're not with the Pistons. Like, it's just, they're operating like they're in the West, and the West is just opening up. Like, everything is changing. No. Like, you're in the Western Conference, my man. Like, it's just not happening. You're not a playoff team. I feel very comfortable on June 27th saying the New Orleans Pelicans will be in the lottery next year. Outrageous. You don't control your pick? You don't put any kind of protections on that? Just I don't know. GM malfeasance to me, Rashad.
No protections is crazy. However, I don't think it's a 0% chance they don't make the playoffs. Like I said, this is a team that won 49 games last year. You upgrade and you get younger at shooting guard from CJ to Jordan Poole. And you know what I'm saying? And now you solidify the point guard position. That was the one thing they didn't have ever since they traded Drew Holiday away in, 2020? And they still won 49 games. So it's like, now you got a couple of formidable guys that can dribble the ball for 18 seconds. And, if you get and we haven't seen it in 8 years, but if you get a healthy Zion for at least 60 games, if I could get 61 games of Zion Williamson, I think they win 40-plus games.
I love your optimism. Love your optimism, Rashad Milligan, but I don't share it. Zion's going to be great in Chicago in, like, February. Like, Zion, when he gets that February trade package to Chicago for Zion Williamson, then we'll start buying back into some Zion Williamson talk. But
the only way Zion gets traded this season is if one of his baby mamas or girlfriends fight each other once again in Metairie. That's the only way Zion Williamson gets traded during the season.
That's Rashad Milligan, NOLA.com. It's so great to reconnect, my friend. I appreciate the insight on the Pelicans and the Atlanta Hawks. You have a great rest of your Friday, my friend, and we'll reconnect again soon.
You do the same, Chase. Appreciate talking to y'all. Y'all take care.
Rashad Milligan, NOLA.com, newspaper reporter all across sports, the sports section over there on NOLA.com, and Atlanta original and longtime friend of mine, and a great journalist here all across the Southeast. So make sure you keep up with Rashad and all of his great work over there at NOLA.com and all Atlanta sports as well. So wrapping up hour number 1, we'll come back with some more NBA talk. We're going to get William Pattison of Overtime and the Slate here in studio. He's another host right here on Fan Run and Fox Sports Knoxville, so excited to talk to him. And he's also a resident Memphis native and Grizzly superfan, so we'll get his insight on what the Grizzlies did here in the NBA draft this week. So stick with us. It's The Chase right here on Fan Run Radio, Fox Sports Knoxville, 105.7 FM, 1340 AM, and always streaming for free on that Fan Run Radio app. We'll be right back with more after this. Right here on Fan Run Radio, Fox Sports Knoxville, 105.7 FM, 1340 AM, and always streaming for free on that Fan Run Radio app. Make sure you download it today if you have not already done so. Also, you can watch us over there on the Fan Run Fox Sports Knoxville YouTube page. All of our shows, 13 hours a day, streaming there. So if you want to watch this show, guess what? You can do so. All kinds of different ways to be a part of the chase and all of our other great Fan Run Fox Sports Knoxville shows like Overtime with William Pattison and The Slate with William Pattison. In studio, right here for the first time. We've had you on last week or 2 weeks ago, but you're cast away in a chair off screen. You're on screen today, William.
I got the upgrade. I guess I did well on my first audition, and now I get to sit in the seat. So that's a good gig, I guess.
Hey, we can do the William the Grizz guy. I don't know. We're workshopping names here. I don't know, Grit and Grind. I'm trying to think of something with the G's because we got G5 Garrett right here with his insight every day on the G5 and FCS, and he's he appreciates all of college football.
Yeah, he does. He knows his stuff.
He's great. But you also, I mean, this week alone, I think I've seen you in like 3 different Memphis Grizzlies shirts, and you're a Memphis. I was gonna say Memphis legend, a Memphis local, and you're a big Grizzlies guy.
Yes.
And it's been a busy week for the Grizzlies. So let's talk about the in-state team here, William. Cedric Coward, not Colin Coward, who was mistakenly referred to as when he got the call that he was going to be a Memphis Grizzly this week in round 1. Jemai Mashek, obviously a big addition in the last pick in last night's round 2 for the NBA draft. Do you love or loathe the picks the Memphis Grizzlies made this week?
Man, I love the Cedric Coward pick. He was my number 1 guy heading into the week when I did my, I guess, big board for Grizzlies prospects. Now, obviously, guys like Cooper Flagg, the best player in the draft, but in terms of players that were achievable for Memphis to select at 16 at the time, I looked at guys like Cedric Coward, Neek Clifford from Colorado State was my second guy, and then kind of down the list I had the Asa Newells and players like that. But Cedric Coward was my number 1 guy throughout this whole draft process, really ever since the Combine, because this is a guy that has continued to level up throughout his basketball career. A 0-star coming out of high school, then goes and plays D2, then makes it to Eastern Washington, then Washington State last year. And for college basketball junkies, you know this guy because he was the number 1 player in the portal for this upcoming year, was committed to Duke, going to go there, and then goes to the Combine and wows everyone. And he has really impressed me. The best thing about him, the 7'2" wingspan. At his size, he's 6'6" overall, 7'2" wingspan. The intangibles and the measurables, very similar to guys like Jalen Williams of the Oklahoma City Thunder, McCall Bridges of the New York Knicks, Pascal Siakam as well. These wing defenders, lengthy wing players with these 7'2" wingspans have a great hit rate. Cedric Coward is a big hit, and I think will be a big fit for the Grizzlies. And it's exactly what they need, a 3-and-D modern player.
I think in a vacuum you like it, right? If he just fell to you naturally, you love the pick.
Yeah.
But as Sam Vecini of The Athletic, who does a great job with his draft coverage, he wrote, and I'm curious to get your insight on this, when you saw because this is like the opposite of what the Hawks did. The Hawks trading back and getting a 2026 unprotected pick is just from the Pelicans. It's something 48 hours later that I'm still just delirious over.
Yeah, oh my gosh.
All-timer. So shout out to Ansi Sala, new GM, doing great work in Atlanta right out of the gate. But he wrote, the complicating factor for the Grizzlies is that they gave up a large haul to get Coward. They traded number 16, a 2028 unprotected Orlando first-rounder, and 2 seconds to get him. Does it ultimately matter if he doesn't become an all-star and he's just someone who's a really good role player, like that modern 3-and-D, and you talk about the wingspan, the shooting? Like, if he just does both at a really solid level, then you don't really care as much about the unprotected pick and having to trade up for that spot. Like, what does Coward have to be to justify the haul they use to get him?
Well, I think in terms of what he needs to be a valuable rotational player for the Grizzlies. He needs to be a good fit alongside a Jaren Jackson Jr. and a Ja Morant. And Jalen Wells, another Washington State guy who played really well this past season as a rookie. Coward just needs to fit into what the Grizzlies need him to do, and that is to be a 3-and-D wing, a modern NBA prospect that has that lengthy frame that can defend multiple positions, that can shoot the ball efficiently from the three-point line. 38% career three-point shooter. I like that number as well. So I just think he needs to fit into the rotation. But the trade has been a big talk, as you know, and to a lot of people, it's a lot of assets to give up. Not only moving up and giving 16, but also a future first-round pick and 2 seconds. The way I look at it is Zach Kleiman has always identified the guys he wants and has gone out and got them, whatever it takes. And in previous drafts, he's done this. And that Orlando Magic unprotected 2028, I think Orlando is going to be a pretty good team for the next 5-6 seasons. That's probably a late first-round pick anyway. And second-round picks are pretty interchangeable. You can find a guy from the G League that would be as valuable, or an undrafted player that could be as valuable as a second-round pick. So I'm not really stressing about the trade package because you got 4 for Desmond Bane. You might as well throw 1 in. I just think if Coward is able to seamlessly fit into the rotation and be a guy that you can rely on night in and night out, I think it's a success.
That's fair. I do kind of wonder, too, like when you talk about Zach Kleiman and the way he's identified talent. I mean, it's going to be very different going from Bane to Coward because Bane, undersized guy. Like,
sure, yeah.
Great shooter, one of the best shooters in the NBA, but he's obviously – the identity of Memphis is changing. And I feel like these kind of moves make you want to buy more stock in Jaren Jackson.
Sure.
And you obviously – Zach Edey, a very large, imposing figure
Yes.
at the 5. Like, they're going big. Like, they are going long, big. And you also just need those guys because Ja is always going to be, I think, a minus defender as long
Sure.
as he's in the league. So you need – it's kind of like how the Hawks are building around Trey.
Yeah.
Is you go super long, you go defense heavy, but you have to have enough shooting to make it all work. So you can't just have a bunch of defenders who can't shoot and space the floor. So you bring in Zachary Rizege. You trade for Dyson Daniels. You have Jalen Johnson who can stretch the floor at the 4.
Yeah,
you bring in KP in a pick-and-pop situation.
Sure.
So – you have to have enough shooting in today's game. Like, it just doesn't work if you have a bunch of non-shooters. Even if 2 non-shooters is just brutal. And that's the thing that Jemai Meshack is going to have to develop if he's going to stick is like, man, it sounds – years ago, you could have Tony Allen and not look at the rim and be that kind of guy who does steals, defense, and can guard 1 through 5. Like that, being able to guard 1 through 5 and being one of the best on-ball defenders in the NBA is valuable. But it's just in an NBA playoff series – matchup hunting is so prevalent that that it's just you can't stick on the floor. If teams are not even looking at you and doing like how SEC teams treated Jemai Meshack at times last year, that won't work in the NBA.
No.
That's not happening. So if he can do that and he can evolve and he can knock down 3-point shots in the corner and he can show that is something in his game, then he'll stick. If not, I don't know. It's still TBD on Meshack.
Yeah, look, I think Meshack was a guy that deserved to receive a flyer late in the second round because what he gives you defensively is one of the best perimeter defenders in the draft. I think Elijah Martin's a little bit better and a little bit more refined in other aspects of his game, so I had him a little bit higher in terms of overall best perimeter defender in the class. But Meshack's right there. So I feel like if he is able to go into a situation like Memphis, spend a little bit of time in South Haven in the G League, have opportunities to find some comfortability around the three-point line, I feel like he can ease his way onto finding a spot on this roster long-term because the defense is there. And the Grizzlies have taken flyers on these type of players before. Yves Pons a couple of seasons ago, obviously not a great shooter, but a great athlete and a great defender. He didn't end up sticking around, but he was on the roster for 2 years. I think Meshack's going to have at least 2 years to prove himself. And with how good he is defensively in a constantly evolving offensive NBA, it's valuable to have guys like Meshack at least at your disposal if he's able to elevate himself on the three-point line.
So, draft in the books for Memphis.
Yes.
Desmond Bane trade, your big swing in the books. Where is Memphis still thin they have to address this summer?
Right now, I look at the center position as a big issue, and it was last year. As Zach Edey would get in foul trouble, you would then have to put Jaren Jackson Jr. at the 5, and we've seen over the last 3 or 4 years just not the spot he's good in. Like, he's a great 4, and he's a great defensive 4 because he's a great help defender, will come over and get a lot of blocks and shot contests that way. So you need a veteran center to back up a Zach Edey. And you need to figure out the guard situation because you got a ton of guards. You just added Javon Small of West Virginia last night through the draft as well. So now you've got, Morant, and you've got Small, you've got Wells, you've got Cole Anthony. Cole Anthony's a guy that I don't think will be on the roster by the tip-off of the season. I think he'll be traded. $13 million contract is a lot. So if Memphis tries to get aggressive and add a piece from another team, I feel like he would be a contract filler, and you use some of those first-round picks as fuel to be able to get a guy in. But I'd say center right now, and then figuring out the point guard situation, the two biggest issues with this Grizzlies team.
Yeah, I mean, John Hollinger, also of The Athletic, in his draft grades piece I was reading this morning, he wrote on the Grizzlies, quote, "So what now? Options remain. Memphis could stretch Cole Anthony's contract, which I think is what you're alluding to there, if it were desperate. Although it seems suboptimal, it's at least a backstop. Trading KCP for a lower salary player is another possibility, or maybe they circle back to a Conchar and Huff deal that costs them more draft capital, likely multiple seconds." He also ended it with, "One thing is clear, I expect both Jang and Above and Conchar to have new addresses by the end of the draft. Surprisingly, they're still here."
Yeah, I'm not a big John Conchar fan. I actually, in a lot of my group chats with my Grizzlies fans, I call him a future burrito roller. Just not a guy that I think is worth being on an NBA roster at this point. And he's given some good moments, but again, I'd much rather take a guy like a Jemai Meshack on the permanent roster that you can develop and see where it goes in 2 years. Conchar, it's kind of ran its course for me. In terms of where the Grizzlies go now, I look around the league at guys like Herb Jones that plays for the New Orleans Pelicans. I'm a huge Trey Murphy fan, and we've clearly seen that the Pelicans are inept these days.
I mean, you want to call Joe Dumars and Troy Weaver.
Oh, please.
That's who you're calling.
Please.
First one. It's just open for business. Like, they are just the gift that keeps on giving. If you're Memphis, you just keep calling. Trey Murphy, what is it going to cost? Oh, you're going to pay me to take Trey Murphy. Okay, and you're going to give me an unpredicted first?
Yeah.
All right. 2020 or 2034? Sure. Why not?
I mean, I'd look around the league at some of these teams that are just making stupid decisions. The Pelicans are definitely up there. The Trailblazers are always in my bin of bad moves. But I think the Grizzlies need to use some of these assets. You've got a ton of draft capital. You've got a couple of contracts that are workable in trades to bring in and bring on salary and give out salary. So I just think it's identifying the type of guys you want to add. And I look at those Trey Murphys, Herb Jones, utility players. KCP is going to be on the roster. I anticipate that he will be here. Just coming from his interview last week with a podcast, was talking about some conversations he's had and a bigger plan that he had with the Grizzlies front office. I anticipate he'll be around. If there's a guy to go, I'd say Cole Anthony would be one of the top ones. John Conchar, I don't even know how he's still on the roster right now.
I mean, you made it very clear. You are not a
burrito
contract
roller, Chipotle, Dos Bros, wherever he wants to go.
You're goodness gracious. Not a Conchar guy. It's kind of how I was with Terrence Mann last year.
Sure. Oh, gosh.
Terrence Mann for the Hawks was brutal because he's just one of those guys where he is theoretical 3-and-D. It's one of those things where it's like he doesn't shoot. He is an okay defender, but he's out here getting cardio. Terrence Mann is a cardio guy, and it drove me nuts. He was playing important minutes. And you put in George Niang, who, very different kind of player, obviously. He's gotten that slow-mo Kyle Anderson vein.
Yeah.
Guy was a bucket in that Heat playing game. Like, he is a different kind of guy. I know what he can do. He can do something different that nobody else really does in the Hawks. And it's valuable, especially in crunch time in a playoff game. That being said, Terrence Mann, I'm like, I don't know what you do on the floor.
Expensive,
I don't know
too.
Yeah, expensive. You're not helping me. Like, I was like that with DeAndre Hunter. Over the years, it's just you trade up for him, the lottery pick stuff, never staying healthy, and it's like, oh, maybe this is when he's going to start being aggressive as a point forward. Never was going to happen. It still has not happened, and nor will it ever happen. And poor Cavs fans were like, oh, what value? Got DeAndre Hunter in. I'm like, good luck, man. Enjoy it. Can't do it.
Man's like one of those expensive plates at a nice restaurant, like you pay $100 for, and you just get a minuscule amount of food, like a small portion. Like, big contract, it's all there, but production isn't really there.
Well, it's kind of like everyone wants to find their Kawhi, right? And that was the hope. It's like, oh, great defender at UVA, champion. Like, it's just a great college player. He should be able to translate and become a point forward and be that.
Yeah.
Everyone wants a Kawhi, and it's like there's one Kawhi.
Yeah.
For every Kawhi, there's 9 pretenders. And
some nights, OG Anunoby can look like it.
Yes. He was another one, especially, I mean, Scotty Barnes.
I like Scotty Barnes, too.
But not Kawhi.
Yeah.
Just, there's one Kawhi Leonard, and I'm sure we'll get someone who's close to Kawhi Leonard down the line, but those guys just, I mean, you saw it with Portland with the Chinese player. What is his name?
Hansen Yang.
Hansen Yang. They're like, oh, could we get our Chinese Jokic? It's like, probably not.
Yeah.
Probably not. Because Jokic is a diamond in the rough unicorn. It's like the whole, if you're going to call somebody a unicorn, that means there aren't that many of them.
Yeah.
So the odds of you being the guy to get him right after, pretty slim. Like everyone's like, oh, could this be our Giannis? No, it can't, because there's one Giannis right now.
Yeah. That Hansen Yang pick was very interesting, too. And I love how there's the Chinese Jokic, there's baby Jokic, who's Alperen Sengun.
Yeah.
Why can't they just be Alperen Sengun? Why do they have to be baby Jokic?
It's just easy. Everybody wants a comp.
Yeah.
Like, people love comps because it makes it easier to understand who these players are. And then we put unrealistic expectations on them because people were throwing out comps for these guys. Deshaun Stevenson, way back in the day. Do you know what his NBA Draft.net player
Baby
comp
Jordan.
was?
What was it?
Baby Jordan.
Baby Jordan?
Michael
Really?
Jordan. That's his comp in
Really?
NBA Draft.net when Deshaun Stevenson was coming out of high school.
Yeah, I mean, draft comps are always the funniest thing about the NBA draft. There was a couple of years ago, it was Mo Bamba.
Yes.
And Seth Greenberg got up there and said that he was a combination between Anthony Davis and Joel Embiid. And it's just like, where do you get this? Mo Bamba, the skinny little Mo Bamba coming out of Texas, is
Wingspan.
Anthony Davis and Joel Embiid?
He's still hanging around, though, right? Mo Bamba's getting checks. He's still in the league. Kind of.
yeah, I
He's
mean,
hanging on.
He's hanging on.
He's somewhere.
The funniest draft comp, and I know y'all are up against the clock, but real quick, the funniest draft comp of this draft was Ben Saraf that went to the Brooklyn Nets. They said he's an Israeli D'Angelo Russell. And I was like, I don't know if I want to be an Israeli D'Angelo Russell comparison, but I guess this.
I mean, D'Angelo Russell, another guy. People just talk themselves. It's the Tobias Finke for all our Arrested Development fans, where it's like, it didn't work for those people, but it might work for us.
Yeah.
Like, that's just D'Angelo Russell, where everybody talks himself into him. And it's like, he's just going to play on 17 teams and be like a Lou Williams type, where he'll be solid, score a lot of points. He'll finish with a crazy record number of points, and we'll look back in trivia. We're like, how many points did D'Angelo Russell score over the course of his NBA career? And it's just part of the deal. William Pattison, you can listen to him over there on Overtime 7 to 8, Monday through Friday. Also on the slate 6 to 7. So make sure you're locked in on Fan Run Radio, Fox Sports Knoxville 6 to 8 every day, and you can hear William Pattison talk all things Tennessee and some national NBA, NFL, college football will be up here before you know it. But great work, great having you in studio, my friend, and we'll check back in again soon.
Yeah, enjoyed it. Thanks for having me.
There you have it, William Pattison, co-host of multiple shows right here on Fan Run, Fox Sports Knoxville, 105.7 FM, 1340 AM. Stick with us. More The Chase going into hour number 2 on a Friday. We'll be right back with more after this.
The flagship station.
Hour number 2 kicking off here on a Friday, and we could think of nobody better to talk all things Tennessee Vols optimism, college football playoff guarantees with Saturday Down South's columnist, a football columnist that I love reading each and every day that you guys can go check out over on SaturdayDownSouth.com. It's Connor O'Gara. Connor, how are you doing, sir?
Doing well. How about yourself, man?
I'm doing pretty well. I'm talking you into it, right? Out of the gate here on Tennessee in 2025?
If by it you mean guaranteed playoff berth, no. We're not getting there. I will say this. I have learned to trust Tim Banks in that defense, and even if there are questions that I have with that group, most notably if Jermod McCoy is going to come back fully healthy and be the All-American corner that he was last year. Look, even though I do believe in that group, I still have a lot more questions on the offensive side of the ball for what's been a defensive-focused team the last couple of years. So probably not getting to that point, but I don't know. Talk to me in August.
Yeah, I'm still just a big believer in this team's floor. I think this team has a high floor. I don't know if you agree, Connor, but I think what you've seen the last 2 years, especially on defense, and what Tim Banks and William Inge and Ronnie Garner have just built, the foundation is just so strong there as a top 10 scoring defense, always leading in TFLs. The sack numbers took a little bit of a step back. Loosened Tyler Barron and James Pierce just had a lot more attention on him, but he was still getting home a lot. It just wasn't finishing as well as he had 2 years ago, but a lot of talent still in that front seven for Tennessee, and I feel like it raises the floor so much where the offense might have as much offensive, I guess, kind of questions as they had in Heupel's first year in 2021, but the defense is just so different. That don't you feel pretty comfortable that this defense has proven enough over the last 4 years under Tim Banks that this is going to be one of the SEC's best units once again?
Yeah, it should be. It should be. I mean, that's the thing that kind of blows me away. If you go back to the conversations when Josh Heupel first got the job, there was a pretty growing sentiment that this position of Tennessee defensive coordinator under Josh Heupel was being passed on by a lot of people in the industry. And even if you look at the way that Heupel left UCF, and their athletic director, Terry Mohadra, gets to the podium, and he says, I talked to players about what they wanted with their next head coach, and they wanted a head coach who believes in complementary football. And it was kind of seen as this jab at Josh Heupel of, he's never really going to find that defensive coordinator, but if you're a really good offensive mind, then, all right, your floor is going to be high in that way. And there was a thinking that maybe Josh Heupel is going to be Lincoln Riley-esque when it comes to that and just struggle to always find that right defensive mind. And here we are in year 5 going into it. Tim Banks is still there. He's doing great things. He seems like he's going to be considered for the Broyles Award on an annual basis, and you kind of just have to trust it at this point, even though obviously they lost a lot of talent with that side of the ball.
What is your biggest reason for optimism for Tennessee football in 2025?
It's that. I mean, it is the defense. It's not the offense. It's just not. I don't know that a lot of people have dug into the history of post-spring quarterback transfers. Mm-hmm. It's not good. Yep. And maybe that's going to be a different conversation if Jake Merklinger ends up winning the starting job and Joey Aguilar coming over from UCLA in this de facto trade for Nico Iamaleava. Maybe that doesn't necessarily take shape early on, and it's a bit more of like a JT Daniels situation where he's not the starter from the jump, and then he ends up maybe taking over or something like that. I don't know, really, at this point, and that's the troubling thing. We saw last year how much that group had to lean on Dylan Sampson. Josh Heupel rearranged his offense because he realized this is what's going to get us to the playoff. And I don't really know if we're going to have a whole lot of juice left when we get there, and then sure enough, you see the way that it plays out. But that was their best formula to be able to win football games. Play really good defense, give the ball to Dylan Sampson, let that offensive line go to work, and kind of hope that the rest falls in place. You don't turn the ball over. But they had that stretch with 3 consecutive games being scoreless in the first half, which felt alarming. And this was an offense that didn't really figure out a whole lot outside of Dylan Sampson. I don't know that they're going to figure it out with Dylan Sampson gone, but I do think that defense is going to give you a chance to be in any given game.
Yeah, I think that's fair, and it's going to be an open QB battle. I'm right there with you in my Joey Aguilar skepticism. Joe Milton was a May enrollee in 2021, and he ended up winning the job over Hendon Hooker, who'd been there since January and was obviously a Pruitt-Chaney ad early on in that winter window in 21. But I think my scenario is that I think ultimately plays out is I think you have multiple Tennessee quarterbacks start games for Heupel this year. It's not ideal, but I do think we're going to see a heck of a lot of change there, and I'm really excited to see what happens. Maybe Merklinger just wins it outright. I'm a big Merklinger guy, so it would not surprise me if he did end up winning it outright or gets in sooner rather than later. But I just think there's so many other things. You talk about like how Heupel evolved in 2024 to get to 10-2 and make the playoff. Part of it was, like you said, is just he did what he needed to do, and part of that was just using Dylan Sampson as a bell cow, and he obviously gets banged up at the end of the Vanderbilt game and was not himself in that Ohio State game in Columbus. But I do think you've averaged 5 yards per carry all 4 years under Heupel, no matter who's been under center or running the football. I think you could really talk me into this offensive line being the best Tennessee's had since 2022, and I think people are going to look at the Cooper Mays departure and some turnover there as like a worrisome sign, but I think Wendell Moy at left guard is going to be really good. I think the tackles have a potential to be the best tackle combination Tennessee's had in the Heupel era with David Sanders and Lance Hurd, and big years for both, and especially Lance Hurd, because if he has a great year, he might be a first-round pick in 2026, and tight ends are super talented with Kitzelman and Ethan Davis. I think there's reason for optimism based on what you saw on the 12 personnel front. And then Mike Matthews and Braylon Staley. If one of those guys break out or Chris Brazzell has that year 2 jump that we saw with Dante Thornton, then receiver is probably okay for the season. So I don't know. I think a lot of people, Connor, they're just overlooking Tennessee, where I'm seeing South Carolina, Florida, Auburn, Oklahoma. A lot of people are just talking themselves into other schools and other chaos type teams over Tennessee, and I think it's silly for all those reasons. I also just think Tennessee's schedule is still fantastic, and I think it's a schedule that has a high floor as well, and I would just be very surprised to see Tennessee outside the top 5 in the SEC come the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean, Josh Heupel's only loss at home post year 1 was to Georgia.
Yep.
That bodes really well for you, and you're right. It is a floor raiser. Now we can get into some of the road issues, and that game in Gainesville that obviously looms, and there are people that are going to wonder what's it going to look like in some of these big time road venues when that has been an Achilles heel throughout the Heupel era, as great as he's been, and the fact that Tennessee's coming off its best 3-year stretch in 2 decades suggests Josh Heupel has things figured out. And that's the good news, is that the floor for this team is just a such different place than it's been post-Phil Fulmer. I mean, there are so many things to like about that, and as long as it isn't some 5-7 type season where all of a sudden there's finger-pointing and there's coordinator departures and there's guys quitting midseason, as long as it's not that, you should still feel pretty good about who your head coach is if you're Tennessee. Now, some of those ifs are going to be scrutinized this year. Like I think the receiver room has been really disappointing the last couple of years. I think if Brew McCoy could have been able to stay healthy, it's probably a different story. But I just think that they've really lacked those weapons in the passing game post Jalen Hyatt, post Cedric Tillman that you just need if you're going to run that style of offense. And I don't know that they have it this year. Mike Matthews, yes, he's the former 5-star, but they're really relying on him to become a stud. And if this guy can be the go-to for whoever is the starting quarterback, that's obviously going to take care of a huge, huge issue. They need Chris Brazzell, the former Tulane transfer, to be that guy as well that can just create and just give you somebody that can win those 50-50 matchups. But, yeah, I just still have a lot of questions. That's probably why you look at other places that have more established quarterback situations like Florida, South Carolina, who has its own questions definitely across the board if we want to get into those. But people look at quarterback, and people have questions about the quarterback in Knoxville, and that's probably why they have questions about Tennessee.
Across the SEC, I'm pretty bullish on Ty Simpson in Alabama and what he's going to have in front of him. I think Alabama is who people are expecting LSU to be as a breakout candidate and potentially the SEC champ this year. If anyone's going to challenge Georgia and Texas to the top of the SEC, I think it's Bama. And I think that 9.5 is kind of indicative of it, but I'm pretty bullish on Simpson and being a better fit for what Kalen DeBoer and Ryan Grubb are trying to do. Big year for Caden Proctor, but I mean, Ryan Williams, Jeremy Bernard, and Isaiah Horton is potentially a lethal combination there. The defense should be even better in year 2. Am I crazy for thinking Alabama's going to be the best team in the SEC this year?
It's not crazy. I got to go to the playoff this year. I think that the return of Ryan Grubb, and I say return because he's reuniting with his guy, Kalen DeBoer. I think that is probably why there is not necessarily a sky is falling type of attitude about the Alabama quarterback situation like there was 2 years ago, if you look at the way that the post-Bryce Young battle played out. But my faith in Simpson is strictly tied to DeBoer and Grubb. I don't know that what I've seen from him so far at this stage of his career, wherein he only had one pass last year in one of Alabama's losses. I mean, they didn't feel good enough about him to see if he can kind of provide a spark plug. Maybe because they wanted to do right by Jalen Milroe, who stood with that coaching staff and didn't necessarily hit the portal. But I don't know that what we've seen from Simpson so far suggests that success is imminent. Now, you have to feel good about the weapons around him if you're Alabama. I don't know that the ground game is all of a sudden going to be a vintage group. I thought losing some of the pieces that they did there, it probably could hurt them this year. But, man, I think that the receiver room is going to be the equalizer. And having someone like Ryan Williams that can just do ridiculous things as an 18-year-old, yes, he is 18 now, no longer 17, that's going to help out an offense. And then the addition of Horton coming over from Miami should allow them to have some of those, key plays on the outside that they really lacked at different points last year. So I have Alabama going to the college football playoff. I think winning a national championship would be a little bit far off for my liking. Need to see more, especially from what I think is an overrated offensive line. But, getting back to the playoff does feel like it's a very reasonable expectation for the Tide in year 2 of the DeBoer era.
We'll get you out on this, Connor. I think there's only one chaos team this year in the SEC, and it's one of these three: Florida, Auburn, or Oklahoma. Who gets to 9 or 10 wins of that group?
Ooh. Florida would be the one I'd have circled. I think Florida, I wrote about this for SaturdayDownSouth.com, shameless plug. I think Florida's the ultimate agent of chaos this year. I really do. And as difficult as that schedule is, where you could look up at that schedule and go, man, Florida's 2-4? What do you mean? I heard all about Florida throughout this offseason. They're eliminated from the playoff by midseason, but so much of it will depend on the health of DJ Lagway, keeping that shoulder healthy, the injury that prevented him from being able to throw a football until May. That's going to be important for this team, obviously. They need Trey Wilson. Maybe their best receiver from 2 years ago, even better than Ricky Pierce all the times. They need him to come back and be that go-to guy. And what does it look like in the trenches? Because this is what Billy Napier has been building towards. They finally have that offensive line. They finally have that defensive line that can push people around. And Florida shouldn't be a doormat. I mean, there's just no reason that in year 4 they should be a team that you're going, wait a minute, they're 6-6, unless, of course, DJ Lagway gets hurt. And if he does, Tennessee fans, you know this name all too well, but Harrison Bailey probably not going to be the guy that's going to save that season for Florida. So I do think they are an agent of chaos. I think they have a 9-win ceiling with what's still a really difficult schedule, but I'm not necessarily going ahead and picking Florida to make the college football playoff just because of how difficult the schedule is. But, they do have a Heisman caliber quarterback and a lot that they have working in their favor this year, especially with what they've been able to build with the line of scrimmage.
Awesome stuff from Connor O'Gara of Saturday Down South. Keep up the great work, my friend. Go read Connor each and every day over there on Saturday Down South. Thank you for the time. We greatly appreciate it, and we'll have to check back in again soon.
Sounds good. Appreciate it, man.
Connor O'Gara of Saturday Down South does great work over there each and every day covering all things SEC football. So appreciate Connor shedding some light on Tennessee and where he thinks things stand going into 2025 and some SEC futures as well. So enjoyed that as well. Jumping on with Connor O'Gara here at the top of Hour 2. Coming back from the break, we'll get into our Year 2 Lowdown series as that continues on with Jordan Ross. We'll talk about another Tennessee baseball player, pitcher in the portal, and what that means for Tennessee baseball, and a whole lot more here in hour number 2. Stick with us. It's The Chase right here on Fan Run Radio, Fox Sports Knoxville, 105.7 FM, 1340 AM, and always streaming for free on that Fan Run Radio app. We'll be right back after this. It's the Chase right here on Fan Run Radio, Fox Sports Knoxville, 105.7 FM, 1340 AM is how you can listen. You can also listen on that free Fan Run Radio app as well. You can watch us over there on YouTube, Fan Run Fox Sports Knoxville. You can watch us and all of our shows there streaming live for free every single day as well. You can also call us as we continue on our Tennessee recruiting and transfer portal talk on the baseball and football front. You can get in touch with the show and call in at 865-966-3435. Again, you can always get in touch with the show and talk Tennessee with us at 865-966-3435. As we wrap up week number 4, 1 month in the books here officially, right here on the Chase 1 to 3, Monday through Friday, and I appreciate you guys making the Chase part of your daily listen. At the top here, we're going to get into year 2 in terms of Jordan Ross, 5-star Leo from Vestavia Hills, Alabama. Big year 2 for Jordan Ross in a suddenly crowded Leo room of blue chippers, a lot of talent, a lot of inexperience behind senior Joshua Josephs, the former 4-star out of North Cobb High School back in Georgia as well. But as we were talking with Connor at the top of hour number 2, Ryan Combs, the latest Tennessee baseball pitcher to enter the portal. We're in 20-plus now territory in terms of pitchers. I think that's 20 total and 25 departures as they continue to shrink this roster to get to that 34 number that will debut with the full 34 scholarships for Tony Vitello's team in 2026. But Garrett, Ryan Combs enters the portal. We're down to 4 in terms of who was there last year. And the Combs one is just kind of a bummer, obviously, because of his brother and what his brother meant for this program, and throwing that last out for Tennessee baseball on a national championship run, and he'll always be beloved here in East Tennessee and Big Orange Country. But Ryan was expected to potentially be the closer starting last year, and you saw a lot early on and good early returns, and then it just didn't work out last year, and he kind of disappeared. But there was still reason for optimism because he had not entered the portal over the last month, and you're like, okay, he has the talent to potentially be a factor in 2026 out of the bullpen and maybe lock down that closer job that we thought he might be this past year. But he's also in the boat now, so it's just Tegan Coons, Braden Krenzel, Anson Siebert, who missed all of last year after undergoing Tommy John, and then Nick Abraham is the final guy there. So completely different pitching staff in 2026 for Frank Anderson.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he was supposed to be kind of in the closer role, didn't really adapt to that position too well, kind of fizzled out by the end of the season, wasn't really seen much, enters the portal today. If you would have told me 2 weeks ago he would have entered the portal, I wouldn't have been that surprised. I thought since he stuck around for this long, he would probably stay, so it's kind of a late portal entry. But, I mean, it's still, to me, I think the numbers sound more concerning than what it really is. 10 to 12 of those guys didn't pitch at all last year. They redshirted. A couple of other guys didn't really contribute much, and then a few other guys really just didn't have very good seasons. It's not like we lost any elite bullpen talent. Frankly, the bullpen in most parts of the season really wasn't even that good. So, I mean, it tells me that Tony has something up his sleeve. He knows who he's going to have next year. He knows something that we don't, because he wouldn't have 4 guys only remaining if this was going to be a problem for next year. I think with, Siebert coming back next year, we talked about it before, but his Tommy John surgery I feel like is different than A.J. Russell's. It might be something where they do wait to bring him back a little bit, but he's had this surgery. It'll be, well over a year by the time he pitches again. So I would assume that he's going to be pretty ready to go. His velocity might not be exactly 100% what it was before, but if he can, get that back up to what it was, you have a starting pitcher there. You have a starting pitcher in Tegan Coons. You probably have one more out of the portal. You have a couple bullpen guys, and you bring more in. I wouldn't be overly worried about it right now.
Yeah, I think the only one that really, really hurts potentially is Dylan Loy. That's it.
And even Loy, though, you can't really fault him for entering the portal. He didn't pitch much. Like, he wanted a starting role. He's really only in there for lefty-on-lefty matchups. To, practice with the team and work out that much, that, as a player, you want to pitch more than just, once a weekend for, 15 pitches. That kind of
But he had the opportunity. I mean, if he was a weekend starter next year, it wouldn't be surprising. If he was stretched out and became one of their 3 guys.
Yeah, but I mean, if he goes to, like South Carolina, I know is a school that's been looking at him. Like, you're pretty much guaranteed a starting role there based on where their program is. You're not guaranteed a starting role here, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, he could have been for sure, but even in the times when he pitched this year, he did get knocked around a pretty good amount.
We'll see on Landon Mack, Tennessee, as of right now. Landon Mack, the Rutgers star pitcher, Saturday and Friday guy there for the Scarlet Knights. We'll see on that front. He's another righty. So I'm really curious because Blaine Brown, he's an outfielder, lefty. He's someone who might pitch for Tennessee and hit. DJ Newman, Bowling Green, pitcher and outfielder. We'll see. He might factor in on the pitching front. The only 2 out of the portal that have committed and that for sure are going to be bullpen guys and are going to make it to campus is Bo Rudy from Kennesaw State and Brady Frederick from ETSU. That's it right now because you're hoping Mason Estrada gets here. You're hoping Clay Edmondson of Asheville gets here. But you're not going to get all these guys. So I don't think Tennessee's done. And, I mean, obviously you'll have several freshmen coming in from this 2026 class that, again, another top 3 class for Tony. So some of those guys will factor in. Maybe Lovecraft, the highly touted top 50 player. He's another dual threat kind of guy. Like, they're going to have some options, but there's no question with the amount of turnover in the bullpen that you're going to have several different guys they brought in, whether it's Blaine Brown and DJ Newman. They're pitching for you next year because the numbers just aren't there. They're going to pitch out of the bullpen at the very least.
I think Newman will pitch. I don't think Brown's going to pitch. His ERA is over 20.
But with Frank, who knows? Like he's going to get a shot. Like maybe it's Tuesdays. Maybe you let him try on Tuesdays because Tuesdays, I don't even know what it's going to look like now because we knew it was the audition Tuesday where you just have Tony loved getting as many different guys an opportunity to get some reps in on Tuesday. You're not going to have that this year.
Yeah.
Michael Sharman special.
I mean, but that's how Xander Sechrist built up his Tennessee tenure and became a guy.
Yeah.
He got knocked around pretty badly, though, when he played Tennessee, when we played Rice, and he pitched. I mean, a 20 ERA in 4 innings.
It's only 4 innings, though.
Yeah, but I don't know. That just seems like, yes, he's a two-way player, but, like, if he's batting that well as a freshman, like, you just want him for his bat. Like, I mean, sure, if his pitching, like, maybe maybe. He could be, like, a Tuesday night bullpen guy. I don't see any way that guy is seen on the mound on a weekend. I just don't. In my opinion, I don't think that's possible.
Yeah, I don't know. Like everyone who's a little bit antsy Tennessee baseball fans about what this looks like and the amount of it's just you're gonna have to hold off here. You could listen to Tony Vitello talking about it on the drive yesterday with Russell and company. It was a fantastic interview that y'all can go check back out from yesterday's show. He's always insightful and he gave great analysis and his really honest opinion on just how chaotic it is. Like it's just there's. Like until the draft happens, and I think Tony made a joke about like how much he's going to be because Tennessee's in a unique spot where they have so many guys on this year's team who are going potentially into the draft. You have so many guys in this top 3 recruiting class who could get drafted. You have so many guys in the transfer portal that still have some draft race. So Tennessee is in a unique spot where Tony and his staff are going to be so locked in and so nervous throughout the entire MLB draft here because. I mean, even it might not sound all that appealing, I think, for some Vol baseball fans where it's like, oh, yeah, we don't really need him back. But Dalton Bargo is not in Baseball America's top 500 MLB draft prospects going into the MLB draft next month. He misses the list. If Bargo is not a top 500 pick,
he's back.
He's back, right?
Yeah,
and
I would want him back.
I want Bargo back. And I know intern Jay is not a Bargo believer, but I would welcome Dalton Bargo back, especially because he's versatile. And the name of the game in 2026, especially with the first year of this smaller roster, I want guys who can play third, catch, play first, outfield.
He can play 5 positions.
Yes.
I mean, he can play anything in the outfield. He can play anything other than first in the infield and catcher, obviously. I mean, I think that's pinch hit, I mean, he can do pretty much it all, which to have a player like that on your team is important. Toward the end of SEC play, I mean, he was one of the best hitters on the team. Now, I mean, yeah, great, he slumped in Fayetteville.
Yeah.
The entire outfield slumped. They went 3 for 30. I mean,
yeah.
Hunter Ensley slumped. He was hitting better than Reese Chapman was. He was hitting better than Hunter Ensley was at the end of the season. Like, I don't know. I don't see, like, why would you not? I don't know. I feel like you would be. He's a veteran in the lineup. Like, he's been there before. I don't know. I feel like if you get the chance, you got to have him back.
Oh, 100%. Like, Dalton Bargo, if you had to do a 1 through 3, who Tennessee could use the most having back between Bargo, Chapman, and Peebles, it's Bargo 1. It's definitively Bargo.
Because, I mean, you have Stone at catcher.
Yep.
And then Reese. I mean, he's good. Like, don't get me wrong. He's a good player. He's a great defensive right fielder. Phenomenal defensive player. Hitting was a little less than to be desired this year. He has power, obviously. But
you feel like you can replace him with Newstrom or, Evan Ford or Henry Ford in right field. Like, there's options at that spot. Bargo is not as easy to replace. I mean, he was also someone who was hitting in the 4-hole, and he was put in a spot where, like, that's above where Tennessee probably would have preferred to have Dalton Bargo. But Bargo being your 6th or 7th guy next year on a more loaded team in the middle of the order with Ford and Clark taking that next step.
Myers, if he comes.
Yeah, like, that is a whole lot cleaner and takes a lot more pressure off Bargo to be the epicenter of the middle of your lineup. Like, I just don't think that was his best fit. And if he gets back for one more year, Bargo I could see having a final fantastic year for Tennessee.
Plus, it helps the infield a lot if he comes back. If he plays third, you can put – if it was up to me, I would put Grimmer at short next year. And then second, you can kind of do it. You put Manny there. You can put Jay there. Like, there's a couple different options. Whereas if Bargo's not there, you're kind of stuck with Manny at third. But if Bargo comes back, you can kind of move, your infielders around a little bit, I feel like, which we saw that was experimented a lot with this year. You saw Curley at third, which obviously was not his position. That was where he committed the 2 errors in the bottom of the 9th of the LSU series. Then, him moving away from shortstop was obviously a little bit difficult for him. And then he comes over to second, and I would say he was better at second than he was third, but, like, he was still making errors there. It's like you want these players to be in their natural positions. So if you can bring Bargo in there, I feel like you have more guys in their natural positions than playing infield spots that they're not, completely accustomed to.
That's fair. I'm very curious what happens now. 'Cause seeing that kind of raised an eyebrow for me. So let's see what happens with Bargo and where he ultimately ends up getting drafted, and if he is someone who might be back next year. And I think that's a huge win for Tennessee if that's the case. But still, we got a ways to go to figure out who's back, who's not. But it will be nice. That first day, that first radio show after the MLB draft is going to be very pleasant on this show. Because we're like,
we land a bunch of people, stay.
Yeah, and then we're like, we know what the team is basically now.
Right.
Like, we know what we have a great idea of where things stand. Then we can really start forecasting, looking at roles, all that kind of stuff. Because right now it's just so hard to forecast what this is going to look like.
Yeah, I mean, I try not to get too wrapped up in next year. I mean, the College World Series just ended last week. I mean, we still have a couple months till we get into fall, stuff where they're figuring out position battles and stuff. I mean, February when the season starts is, the end of February is a long ways away. But, I mean, we've landed most of the transfers we wanted. I would say not getting Jaron as an infielder from Cal was a little bit tough. Thought going to Georgia Tech there was kind of an interesting choice, especially with Danny Hall retiring. You don't really know what that Tech team's going to look like next year. So I don't know what his decision-making was there. But, I mean, good for him. He found a spot. I'm sure he'll start. But it definitely would have been helpful for him to come here.
Yeah, we'll see on that front. But still time. Still time. Tennessee's still looking and scouring the transfer portal market. And guys still can get in towards the end of the month here. So we could see another big-time infielder pop in the portal here over the next couple days. Who knows on that front? So day at a time for Tennessee baseball. Jordan Ross, as we wrap up here at the bottom of hour number 2. Jordan Ross, 5-star kid out of Vestavia Hills. Someone who I think is going to need to take a leap for Tennessee football to replace James Pierce on the defensive line. Joshua Josephs has to be a much bigger sack guy than he has been. He has been great against the run, great as someone who's been able to pressure the quarterback, and Tennessee really utilized him in a lot of different ways. I remember we had Rusty Manziel on here the first week of June of On 3 and Dogs HQ, and he really is high on Joshua Josephs, and year 4 for him.
You know, we jump on the Joshua Josephs train.
Well, I think Josephs for me, it's just to see it to believe it on the sack front. Like, he has to make that leap. There's just no way around it. For Tennessee to kind of take some stress off what's going to be on the secondary's plate, especially without Jermon McCoy potentially for the early part of the year, The linebackers are young, talented, but like you want to take some stress off there. There's no Keenan Peely to help things with the vets in the room. So it's a young group, super talented. I'm optimistic about. I mean, you're going to have a new starter at safety next to Turrentine. Boo Carter just going into his second year. You want to take as much pressure off that back end early on as possible. So I think Josephs has to be a sack guy because Tyler Barron's on the opposite side. Behind Josephs this year, it's Caleb Herring, 4-star kid out of Murfreesboro. Like, we'll see. On that front, he has all the talent to be somebody who can slide in and be a good pass rusher. Jordan Ross, 5-star kid out of Vestavia Hills. And then you also have Marion Dye, Christian Gass, 2 freshmen Leos, 2 blue-chip guys. We'll see if they factor into that room. But there's a whole lot of potential, no proven production in that room. And I trust Coach Chop. I trust Rodney Garner to maximize that group. But I do think Jordan Ross is a really fascinating player going into 2025 because he's got to make that leap. And I wonder if his spot in 25, where he would make the biggest difference for Tennessee, is him in the Rabbits package on the other side of Joshua Josephs. If he is able to bulk up and be able to be that third down pass rusher opposite of Joshua Josephs, and you have those two guys operating at a just terrifying clip off the edge, that's huge for Tennessee. Like I that is absolutely a possibility, but I don't think there's a way for Tennessee, unless you're like the biggest Tyree West believer on third down pass rush situations, that you're going to be able to get home with 4 if one of those Leos do not move over to the other side of the line of scrimmage, kind of like what you saw James Pierce and Joshua Josephs do at times last year. Like, I don't think there's a way around Tennessee having an elite pass rush if Jordan Ross is not opposite of Joshua Josephs on key passing downs, because he has all the talent to be an elite pass rusher, super twitchy. He's a 5-star for a reason. For him to get on the field, I think he's got to be opposite of Joseph on those key pass rush opportunities, and that's where they can be overwhelming, and Tennessee's defensive line gets scary in a hurry.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty deep. Maybe not necessarily in regards to guys that have played necessarily, but it's deep in, like, high school prospects.
Yes.
These guys were good. Like, even guys like, Caleb Herring, like, you would think eventually, like, he's going to play some meaningful snaps at some point.
It's time to sink or swim, year 3.
Yeah, and I mean, he seems like he has the potential to do it. Like, there just seems like there's, like, a lot of guys in that, linebacker room and stuff that, like, never really necessarily proved it, but, like, one game and they're, like, they get all the confidence in the world and they're, the best linebacker in the room. I think I think it's good that they have this because it elevates your linebacker room when no one's job is safe. These guys are all there's not really anybody in this linebacker room per se that, like, has guarantee. I mean, to an extent, but, like, you have guys that are all fighting for a job, and when you have, no job security, that helps the room in general where everyone wants to compete.
I agree. We'll wrap up here with some more Tennessee football talk. Glen Elarbee, why he's actually underrated by Tennessee Vol fans. I know there's going to be some disagreements here, maybe in this room, but we're going to wrap up here on a Friday talking Tennessee offensive line and Tennessee offensive line coach Glen Elarbee right here on a Friday on The Chase, Fan Run Radio, Fox Sports Knoxville, 105.7 FM, 1340 AM. Stick with us as we wrap up hour number 1, month number 1, right here on The Chase. We'll be back with more after this. Chase, right here on Fan Run Radio, Fox Sports Knoxville, as we wrap up hour number 2, month number 1 on Fox Sports Knoxville, 105.7 FM, 1340 AM, and always streaming on that free Fan Run Radio app. The Drive with Russell Smith and the Bear coming up here at the top of hour number 3. So stick around for the Drive, as they are on location, I believe, over there at the Smokies. So that'll be awesome as well. Here to hear from the Drive from 3 to 6 with Russell. So as we put a bow here on this Friday edition of The Chase, Glen Elarbee. He is someone who I think a lot of Tennessee Vol fans have strong opinions for. And I have been, similar to Tim Banks on the defensive side of the ball, I have gone to bat for Glen Elarbee a lot at Tennessee over the last 4 years. He got a lot of flack last year for Tennessee having to go to 12 personnel. It didn't really work with John Campbell at right tackle and Dane Davis. A lot of different reasons for that. But no matter what, Tennessee did have to go to 12 personnel in SEC play to survive and advance to the college football playoff last season and get to 10-2. He's a big part of why Tennessee, though, has run the ball at 5 yards a carry for the last 4 years. He's a big reason why, whether it's a bell cow back with Dylan Sampson or a trio with Jabari Small, Dylan Sampson, and Jalen Wright, that the Tennessee Volunteers do not miss a beat running the football. The thing that drives fans nuts, I think, is that to this point, going into year 5, there are no homegrown success stories when it comes to Glen Elarbee and his high school evaluations to this point. They've all been either Pruitt guys or transfer portal guys. The problem with this is, look, man, that Alabama game, the best game of the Heupel era in 2022, that third Saturday in October in Neyland Stadium, J.J. Crawford and Gerald Mincey were rotating at left tackle with Dallas Turner and Will Anderson off the edge. And they did nothing in that football game. The most iconic part of that game on the offensive line was J.J. Crawford puking as a way of, intimidating that Alabama defensive line. He made it work with Gerald Mincey for as long as he could. He made it work with J.J. Crawford. He made Cooper Mays a great 4-year player at Tennessee. Darnell Wright became a top 10 pick under Glen Elarbee's tutelage. One of the things that I think is taken for granted is just he has been a great offensive line coach. It's a totally different animal at the high school ranks. Like, I understand there's frustration there and not being able to, at this point, develop any of your own guys. But also, they haven't really had an issue before last year blocking at a big-time rate and having to go 12 personnel because the tackle play just wasn't good enough. Ollie Lane, another great success story. Not an original Elarbee guy, but he settled into becoming a great left guard. Javonte Spraggins, especially 2 years ago, was fantastic for Tennessee at right guard. He has been really good for so many different guys through the last 4 years. I do, though, understand why there is frustration there when it comes to developing their own guys. But offensive line, more than maybe any other position in football, is so developmental based. Like, it takes years for these guys to put on the weight, to get acclimated, especially in a tempo-based system like Tennessee has. It's hard. It's hard to be a Tennessee great offensive lineman under Heupel and Elarbee.
Yeah, well, they have a 5-star now that he can, all reports say that, hopefully, knock on wood, he's the first one that he's able to develop from, homegrown and all the way to the league. I think there's a pretty good chance that happens. No, exactly what you said. The O-line's probably the most developmental position in the sport. I mean, when you think about it, with the weight that you put on, how much stronger you get, the athleticism you still have to have while being the weight that you are. Like, people sit there and say, O-line, whatever, all they do is just block, but there's so much more little intricacies to the offensive line that the normal fan doesn't understand, the different, schemes that the defense is looking at, and so many different things that go into the offensive line. And obviously, the way that we've, run the ball, especially last year with Sampson, if you don't have a good offensive line, you're not having Sampson as one of the top running backs in the country. It's just not working. You go back to, the Oklahoma game, where that game was won in the trenches. Now, it was won on the defensive side of the ball, too, but the offensive line was able to stack yards, stack drives, for the running backs to be able to get yardage. And I think that's a reason why a lot of people are high on Peyton Lewis and Deshaun Bishop this year, is because they know that this offensive line is going to be able to create holes, create space for them to get yardage. I think the offensive line this year is going to be as good as it's ever been since he was hired in 2021. And, I mean, I think you kind of have to be an idiot to not see that the offensive line has been one of the strongest suits of this team over the past couple of years.
I 100% agree. And I also think, is Elarbee going to get any credit if Lance Hurd becomes a first-round pick this year for developing Lance Hurd and getting him acclimated as a former 5-star guy out of LSU, but like to not give up on him and to develop him into a premier tackle? What if he gets Darnell Wright? Like I said, I think I've said multiple times over the last month, Lance Hurd had a better PFF graded season first year under Glen Elarbee at Tennessee last year than Darnell Wright did in 2021, his first season in the Heupel era. There is all kinds of reasons for optimism when it comes to Lance Hurd bouncing back and having a gigantic contract year season for the Volunteers. I'm very bullish on Lance Hurd. Does Elarbee get credit if he has another left tackle go in the first round of the NFL draft in 5 years, his second one potentially? That's in play. David Sanders, obviously a big deal, and we'll see how he is as a plug-and-play. I mean, you look at Sham Umarov, one of his early guys, 4-star guy out of Denmark High School in Forsyth County. He has been in the system for 3 years. This will be year 4, I believe. He might be the starter at right guard. You got Wendell Moy in there at left guard. It seems like that's pretty much locked in. Center and right guard seem open going into fall camp, and we'll see how that battle plays out. Sam Pendleton, a guy who has multiple years of eligibility, played on a national championship runner-up last year at Notre Dame, North Carolina kid. That's still, if he develops into an NFL-type player and he develops into your 3-year starter at center, does Elarbee not get credit for that and identifying Sam Pendleton out of the portal and bringing him in and developing him? He might be the center. Or it might be William Satterwhite, who he evaluated, or Max Anderson. This is a big year for his high school evaluation guys. But I do think he's going to hit. Like, I'm not in the – I don't think Elarbee, who is so good with transfers and has been so good with guys he didn't even recruit himself, that I just have a hard time believing that some of these guys aren't going to pan out for him. Like, I think if it's Sham Umarov because Pendleton's your center and Sham's your right guard, I believe Sham could absolutely be a great player under Heupel. He's got the size. He's got the time. He's put in the work. Like, I wouldn't be surprised at all if Sham Umarov is a great right guard for Tennessee next year. I wouldn't be surprised if William Satterwhite or Max Anderson ran with the center position and they were multi-year starters for Tennessee. And those are all Elarbee guys. So for me, I have a hard time believing that the sky is falling when it comes to his evaluations and where Tennessee is on that front and how much of an issue it is that they've not been able to develop guys. And I mean, you see there's some negative Vol fans right now where it's like, oh, Edward Baker, another 3-star. Ogamoro last cycle, who I like, and a lot of other recruiting services like Ogamoro a lot, Anthony Ogamoro. He might be a center. Nick Moore, local kid out of Jefferson County, like he might end up being a center of the future. There's a lot of talent in that room. Bennett Warren, we'll see. Does he factor in? Jesse Perry, swing guy, might play guard, might play tackle a lot this year. He might get a lot of snaps. He was a, wing T guy at the high school level, and now he's in a completely different system, and he's gotten up to speed, and he seems like someone who can really help Tennessee. Does Glen Elarbee not get credit for developing a guy who was as green as Jesse Perry was coming in? Glen Elarbee just gets a lot of flack by this fan base that I think he doesn't deserve, and I think, man, you look around this league. Look at South Carolina's offensive line the last couple of years. Look at some of these schools in your own conference. Look at Georgia's offensive line last year. It was pretty bad. Like, Georgia had a rough offensive line last year. Oklahoma was dreadful. Tennessee has not had a dreadful offensive line yet in the Heupel era. They had problems last year. They had a leaky tackle spot, but they also addressed it in a hurry. They're like, all right, we're not doing this anymore. We're going 12 personnel, and that's what we're living in it. And we're not going to have that issue. Nico was not running for his life the rest of the season. Right. So I think it's okay. Breathe. Tennessee offensive line play is fine.
Yeah, and I mean, that's when you saw problems with the offense. Like you said, it wasn't because Nico was scrambling around trying to find an open receiver. Mm-hmm. It was just like it just didn't work. Like there's just things that just weren't working. It wasn't because the pocket was collapsing. Like that didn't in fact, that rarely happened. Like that didn't the pocket didn't collapse very much. And I mean, you even go back to guys like Cooper Mays. I understand that he didn't recruit him. Like that was the old coaching staff. But like Cooper Mays, if he didn't have injuries, like that guy could have been a high-level draft pick if he didn't battle so many injuries. Him and his brother both battled so many injuries.
And it's hard to believe that he wouldn't end up at Tennessee even if Heupel had gotten there a year prior. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's one where I think Cooper Mays probably would have been a ball in the Heupel era or the Pruitt era.
Right. And I'm saying, like, I feel like, I mean, he from the time his freshman year, like he didn't play much, and then he turned into an everyday starter. And I mean he developed him, and obviously when his brother came through, everybody knew about Cooper and stuff, and they expected him to be good. But, like, I mean, when he was not injured and he was fully healthy, like, he was a very good offensive lineman. And, like you said, I mean, he's developing guys that he's got out of the portal. And a lot of these guys that he's picking up out of the portal, it's not like they've played, crazy amounts at their old school. Like, he's bringing in guys that don't have very many snaps, and he's developing them into good players. So, I mean, part of that also is just modern-day football. Like, you're getting so many guys through the portal. Like, of course you have to say that, a coach did a good job of developing talent through the portal. I mean, looking for a guy through the portal is the same as looking through the high school ranks. You have to know who you want and who you don't want based on the film that you've seen in game, whether that's at the collegiate level or at the high school level. So, I mean, I think he's done a good job of identifying talent.
Yeah, and I think this year, obviously, it's going to be a big year, but I would be very, very surprised if one of his guys are not long-term starters this year. Yeah. And I think hopefully that gets the heat off of him, the unnecessary heat, whether that's Sham, Satterwhite, or Anderson. I think one of those guys ends up becoming a long-time quality starter for Tennessee this year.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's like I said, it's an important position, especially with a QB that's Aguilar that has, a little bit of a turnover problem. If you can have, a very good offensive line that holds up the pocket, that's, good. And Merck, who hasn't, been thrown out there as much, it's if you can keep your quarterback from getting, roughed up early in the season, and you can keep your quarterback from having to make silly decisions in the pocket because your offensive line is strong, I mean, that's all you can ask for in a first-year quarterback in the system.
That'll do it for this Friday edition of The Chase. Thank you to Garrett Armbrust, Jay King. Thank you to William Pattison coming in studio, talk Grizzlies. Thank you to our guests, Rashad Milligan of NOLA.com and Connor O'Gara of Saturday Down South. The Drive with Russell Smith and the Bear coming up next. We're back next week. Y'all have a good weekend, and y'all come back now.